The last thing Emma Reed remembered from her old life was the slam of the front door and the echo of her mother's voice slicing through her chest. "You're an embarrassment, Emma. Don't come back." She had stood on the porch of their immaculate Brookhaven home with a duffel bag that held everything she owned, watching through the window as Claire, her younger sister, the family jewel, laughed with their parents. Before I go on, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. No one followed Emma out. No one asked if she had somewhere to sleep. At 22, she became a ghost by force, cut from the Reed family picture without hesitation. But ghosts have ways of returning, and Emma learned very quickly that being erased has a strange side effect. It makes you silent, observant, and calculating. 5 years later, those same qualities had become her sharpest weapons. Now 27, she no longer felt that sting of rejection. She felt something colder, cleaner. Her pain had hardened into precision. She wasn't seeking forgiveness. She wasn't seeking reconnect. She was seeking the perfect moment, one her family would never see coming, to show them exactly who they had thrown away, and what it cost them. Revenge was never her plan. It became her purpose. Growing up in Brookhaven, Riverton, the Reed family lived in a world where perfection wasn't encouraged, it was required. Mr. and Mrs. Reed owned a chain of high-end boutiques and treated their social circle like an audience. Their daughters weren't children. They were props. Claire fit that role naturally. She was beautiful, ambitious, and academically flawless. Every achievement she made became another gemstone in her parents' crown. Emma, however, never sparkled the way they wanted. She preferred quiet corners, sketchbooks, and design software. Her talent lived in colors and shapes, not in Claire's neatly measured accolades. To her parents, that made Emma defective. They didn't punish her outright. Indifference was far more effective. Praise was reserved for Claire. Emma received comparisons. Support was reserved for Claire. Emma received pressure. When Emma brought home school art trophies, her parents congratulated Claire for making the honor roll. When Emma spoke, they half listened. When she dreamed, they redirected. By the time she turned 18, Emma understood the unspoken rule of the Reed family. Only the child who made them look good deserved to be loved. She just never expected they would one day love their reputation enough to throw her away entirely. College had been Emma's first taste of freedom. Brief, fragile, but breathtaking. She majored in graphic design, a decision that felt like choosing herself for the first time. Her professors praised her originality. Classmates admired her instinct for visual storytelling. But the moment her parents learned about her major, the approval ended. "Design isn't a career," her father said coldly. "It's a hobby for people without ambition." Her mother added the sharper blow. "Claire is studying pre-med. She'll save lives." "What exactly will you do?" The criticism didn't end, it multiplied. Every phone call became an interrogation about her choices, her appearance, her worth. Their disappointment seeped into her mind until her own thoughts turned against her. Depression crept in, tightening its grip each week. She stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, stopped believing she had a future outside their expectations. When she dropped out, it wasn't a choice, it was a collapse. And when she told them, they didn't offer help. They offered exile. Being cast out should have broken her. Instead, it began shaping the woman she would become, the one her parents would one day regret underestimating. The months after she left home were brutal. Emma slept on couches, worked late-night cleaning jobs, and rationed her meals to stretch every paycheck. But hardship sharpened her focus. With nothing left to lose, she poured herself into the only thing that had ever made sense: design. She scavenged a used laptop, taught herself advanced software, and built a portfolio in the stolen hours between survival jobs. Something dormant inside her awakened, a cold, steady discipline her family never imagined she possessed. Every logo she crafted, every small business website she built, every client she impressed, it all added to a growing foundation built from grit instead of privilege. 3 years later, she founded Brightline Creative Studio, and by 27, her client list included boutiques, restaurants, and even corporate offices across Riverton. Success wasn't loud or flashy. It didn't need to be. It was quiet, polished, and sharp-edged, just like the revenge forming slowly in the back of her mind. Emma never sought revenge out of anger. She sought it out of justice. And the Reed family had no idea the daughter they discarded had grown into the one person capable of destroying the perfect image they worshipped. Emma had long moved on from the Reed household, until the invitation arrived. A former classmate messaged her about Claire Reed's medical school graduation party, attaching an elegant digital invitation dripping with gold accents. The Reed family loved spectacle. This event would be no different. Emma stared at the invitation, letting memories she thought were dead flicker awake. They didn't invite her, of course. They assumed she was still a ghost, unseen, irrelevant. But ghosts choose when to appear. And Emma knew instantly that she would go. Not to reconcile. Not to be acknowledged. But to watch the Reed family celebrate the daughter they kept, while unknowingly standing in the presence of the daughter they abandoned, who had risen far beyond their expectations. She picked the perfect black dress, elegant, understated, unforgettable. Her presence would be quiet at first, unnoticed by the very people who shaped her into the weapon she had become. But at the right moment, when the pressure was highest and all eyes were on the Reed family, Emma would step forward. And the truth, sharpened for 5 years, would cut deeper than anything she could ever say in anger. Revenge wouldn't be explosive. It would be surgical. And tonight, it would begin. The night of the graduation party arrived with a warm breeze sweeping through Riverton. The venue, a towering glass hall overlooking the river, glowed with soft golden lights that reflected off the water like a promise of perfection. Exactly the kind of place the Reed family would choose to showcase their accomplishments. Emma arrived alone, stepping from her ride-share with calm confidence. She wore no jewelry except a slim silver bracelet, no accessories except a small clutch. She didn't need anything flashy. Her presence would be enough. Inside, the air buzzed with music, laughter, and champagne-fueled excitement. Servers drifted between clusters of guests, offering crystal flutes. Emma slipped into the crowd without a ripple, her transformation over the past 5 years rendering her nearly unrecognizable. She scanned the room, taking in familiar faces, old neighbors, her parents' business associates, Claire's former classmates. The Reeds had gathered the entire city's elite to celebrate their shining daughter. Perfect. Emma moved toward the bar, her steps calm and deliberate. She didn't intend to strike yet. Revenge was timing. Revenge was patience. Revenge was waiting for the moment when humiliation would echo the loudest. She only needed to watch, and let them reveal exactly who they had become without her. Near the center of the ballroom, Claire stood like a chandelier centerpiece, glowing, admired, and constantly photographed. She wore a fitted white dress that sparkled subtly under the lights, her hair styled into a perfect cascade of curls. Guests congratulated her in waves, showering her with praise. "You must be so proud," one woman said to Mrs. Reed, who stood beaming beside her. "Claire has such a bright future," another remarked. Mr. Reed accepted every compliment as though each word elevated him personally. Emma observed from a distance, feeling nothing, not jealousy, not hurt, only precision sharpening inside her. Every detail she witnessed became a thread she would later pull. She listened as her parents repeated the same lines. "Claire has worked so hard. We always knew she'd succeed. We've done everything to support our girls." Our girls. It was a lie delivered so smoothly that guests smiled without question. Emma sipped her drink, letting their lies accumulate like dry leaves at the edge of a flame. If they wanted the illusion of a perfect family, she would let them polish it fully before she shattered it in front of the very people whose approval they cherished most. Revenge tasted like patience, and Emma had learned patience well. As Emma drifted closer to the dessert table, she overheard a familiar cadence, the clipped, measured voice of her mother addressing a small circle of elegantly dressed women. "We're extremely proud of both our daughters," Mrs. Reed said, lifting a glass of champagne. "Claire, of course, and Emma, who's working abroad on major business projects. She wanted to be here so badly." Emma froze, not from pain but from fascination. Her mother wasn't ignoring her existence, she was mythologizing it. "Emma travels all the time," Mrs. Reed added, her smile tight but polished. "That's why you never see her at local events." The women murmured admiration. One asked, "Is she in Europe?" Mrs. Reed calmly replied, "Last I heard, yes." Emma almost laughed. The lie was so casual, so deeply ingrained that her mother didn't even blink. Being erased was one thing. Being fictionalized was another. The Reed family had replaced her with a cleaner, more convenient version, an edited daughter who was successful without needing acknowledgement, who made them look good without being present. Emma stepped back, absorbing the power of what she held, truth. And truth, delivered at the right moment, could collapse an entire social empire in seconds. She just needed the perfect stage. Needing air, Emma moved toward the terrace. The doors opened to a sweeping view of the river shimmering under city lights. If you're still watching, kindly hit the like button and subscribe for more powerful stories. She stepped outside and inhaled deeply, grounding herself. But she wasn't alone. A well-dressed man with salt and pepper hair stood nearby, examining the skyline with quiet admiration. When he noticed her, he offered a polite smile. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" he said. His voice carried the warmth of someone comfortable in his own skin. "I'm Dr. Michael Carter, Dean of Brookhaven Medical School." Emma stiffened slightly. This was the man who had overseen Claire's final academic years. "Emma," she replied simply. "Pleasure to meet you." Dr. Carter studied her thoughtfully. "Are you here for Claire?" A loaded question. Emma answered, "Something like that." He chuckled softly, not pressing further. "I've heard the Reed family has another daughter," he said casually. "A successful one, from what I've been told." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Have you met her?" "No," he said, "but Mr. Reed speaks of her often. Seems proud." Proud. The word tasted ironic. Emma's lips curved slightly, not in amusement, but in calculation. Dr. Carter didn't know the truth. Nobody did. But they would. Soon. The terrace lights flickered softly as if signaling that the hour was approaching. When Emma returned inside, she found the ballroom shifting into its pinnacle moment. A soft chime rang through the hall, and guests turned toward the small stage at the front where a microphone stood waiting. Mr. Reed stepped up, adjusting his suit jacket, radiating the confidence of a man who believed the world admired him. Claire took her place beside him, glowing with anticipation. Emma slipped among the crowd, close enough to see everything, far enough to remain unnoticed. "Good evening, everyone," Mr. Reed began, his voice filled with practiced pride. "Tonight, we celebrate my daughter, Claire, whose dedication and brilliance have made this one of the proudest days of our lives." Applause surged. Claire lowered her head modestly. Emma watched, silent. "Family," Mr. Reed continued, "is the foundation of every success. My wife and I have raised two exceptional daughters, Claire, and our oldest, Emma, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight. She's abroad, traveling for work." The lie dropped into the room like a polished gem. Guests nodded approvingly. Emma's pulse remained steady as the applause died down. She wasn't afraid, not anymore. She scanned the room for reactions. Some guests dabbed at their eyes, touched by Mr. Reed's speech. Others nodded with admiration for a father who appeared dedicated and devoted. The hypocrisy was stunning. Emma noticed Claire's boyfriend, a handsome, confident man, wrap an arm around her waist while whispering something that made her smile. Claire was enjoying her moment. She deserved her celebration, Emma thought. But her parents didn't deserve the polished story they were selling. Emma drifted closer, weaving through guests as soft music resumed. Along the way, she overheard whispers. "Their oldest is overseas. Such a successful family. Mr. Reed always speaks so proudly of both girls." Every word tightened the cold spiral of resolve inside her. 5 years earlier, she would have crumbled under the weight of hearing her family lie about loving her. Now, it only fueled her precision. Emma reached the edge of the gathering near the front, close enough to hear the conversations around her but still concealed by a standing floral arrangement. She waited, letting the moment breathe, letting their perfect narrative expand fully before she struck. The more flawless the illusion, the louder it breaks. As the music softened, Emma noticed Claire separating from the crowd. Her sister stepped into a hallway leading to the venue's smaller rooms, likely taking a breather before the next round of congratulations. Emma hesitated, then followed. She wasn't planning to confront Claire, not yet, but watching her might reveal something useful. From the dimly lit hallway, Emma saw Claire enter an empty conference room and close the door behind her. Emma stopped just outside. Through the partially frosted glass, Claire appeared as a blurred silhouette pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. Her voice drifted out faintly when she raised it. "Mom, I know," Claire said, sounding frustrated. "Everything is fine. No one has asked about Emma. Everyone thinks she's overseas, okay." Emma blinked. Claire wasn't lying maliciously. She was maintaining the family script because it was easier than the truth. "Yes, Mom," Claire added with a sigh. "I'll be back in a second. Just calm down." She hung up and rubbed her forehead, tension clear even through the glass. In that moment, Emma realized something critical. Claire didn't hate her. Claire didn't even think about her. Claire simply followed the narrative their parents built, obediently, thoughtlessly, completely. That made the impact of Emma's plan even sharper. Claire returned toward the ballroom, unaware that Emma had been only inches away. Emma lingered a moment before following her back inside, blending once again into the sea of glittering gowns and polished suits. As Claire rejoined her guests, Emma circled to a quieter corner of the room. There, she spotted Dr. Carter speaking with a small group of faculty members. Professor Ward stood among them and noticed Emma first. He smiled warmly and gestured for her to approach. "Emma," he said, "I was hoping you were still here." Dr. Carter turned, curious. "This is the woman I mentioned," Professor Ward explained. "The talented designer I taught years ago." Dr. Carter extended his hand. "A pleasure," he repeated from earlier, but this time with genuine interest. "Your professor tells me you run a design studio." Emma nodded. "Brightline Creative Studio." "Impressive," Dr. Carter replied. "Our school's website desperately needs an overhaul. Would you be open to discussing it?" Emma offered a subtle smile. "I would." As they exchanged contact details, Emma could feel a shift in the air, not from her family, but from her own rising power. Without their help, she had achieved everything. And in a few moments, the entire room would know exactly how much the Reed family lied about her. The lights dimmed slightly, signaling a transition to the next portion of the event. Guests drifted back toward the stage, settling into semicircles. Emma felt the atmosphere tighten. This was the moment where speeches deepened, where the family basked in admiration. Her mother approached the microphone first, radiating elegance. "Thank you all for being here," Mrs. Reed began. "Tonight is a dream for our family." Emma's stomach tightened, but her expression remained composed. "As parents," Mrs. Reed continued, "we always wanted to raise daughters who made a difference. And we are so blessed. Claire," she looked lovingly at her youngest, "has always been a star. And Emma, though she can't be here tonight, travels constantly for her successful work." Emma almost admired the conviction behind the lie. Her mother wasn't nervous. She wasn't hesitant. She wasn't even uncertain. She was comfortable lying because she believed no one would ever challenge her. That was the fatal flaw. Mrs. Reed concluded with an emotional flourish. "Family is our greatest pride." The audience applauded. Claire dabbed at her eyes delicately. Emma stepped closer, her heart steady, her resolve icy. The stage wasn't just a platform tonight. It was an execution ground, and Mrs. Reed had handed Emma the perfect weapon. Her own words. When the applause faded, Mr. Reed took the microphone again to toast the future. "To Claire," he declared, raising his glass. "And to the Reed family." Glasses lifted across the room. Emma stood still at the edge of the crowd. Her moment was here, clear, calculated, devastating. She stepped forward before anyone lowered their glass. The movement caught attention slowly, then all at once, as guests turned to see who was approaching the stage with such composure. Mr. Reed paused mid-sentence, confused. Mrs. Reed's smile faltered. Claire stared, brows furrowing as she tried to place the familiar yet changed face. Emma walked directly to the front, graceful, silent, unstoppable. "I'd like to say something," she said, her voice carrying effortlessly through the hush. The microphone remained in Mr. Reed's hand for 1 second too long, and that hesitation exposed everything. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras lifted. Claire's boyfriend stepped back. Mrs. Reed's hand trembled. Emma tilted her head slightly, eyes steady. This was no emotional breakdown. No plea for acknowledgement. No attempt to fit back into their world. This was the beginning of their unraveling. "I'm Emma," she said. "The daughter who's overseas. The one who supposedly couldn't make it." The room froze. Silence consumed the ballroom. It wasn't awkward. It was electric. Every guest leaned in, their curiosity sharpening as Emma stepped fully into the light. Mr. Reed's face paled, his grip tightening around the microphone as though he could stop what was coming by holding onto it. He couldn't. Emma gently took it from his hand, her expression controlled, almost serene. "I wasn't overseas," she said, her voice smooth, unwavering. "I wasn't traveling. I wasn't too busy to attend. The truth is simpler, I wasn't invited." A ripple passed through the crowd, a single collective gasp that seemed to echo off the marble floors. Emma continued, "My parents haven't spoken to me in 5 years. Not after they threw me out for dropping out of college during a mental breakdown they refused to acknowledge." Mrs. Reed's hand flew to her chest, but Emma didn't even glance her way. Tonight, they proudly told you all that I'm doing well because they like the success story. They just don't like the parts where they weren't part of it. She scanned the room, meeting the eyes of old neighbors, colleagues, friends, each one now whispering, reacting, judging. The Reed family's perfect image was beginning to crack, and Emma had only started speaking. Claire stepped forward suddenly, voice trembling. Emma, please. Emma raised a single hand, stopping her without force, without anger, just dominance. Claire froze. Cameras lifted higher. Let's talk about family, Emma continued. A family that tells people they supported both daughters. A family that paints a picture of unity. She gestured lightly toward her parents. But the truth is, they cut me out the moment I stopped being convenient. Whispers exploded into full-blown murmurs. Dr. Carter looked stunned. Professor Ward looked heartbroken. Emma's voice grew even steadier. They didn't check on me. They didn't ask if I was alive. But once I became successful, suddenly I returned to their speeches. To their stories. To their image. Emma smiled faintly, not with warmth, but with absolute control. I built my design studio alone. I slept on couches. I worked 3 jobs. I clawed my way back from nothing, without a single member of the Reed family lifting a finger. She paused, letting the silence stretch until it became suffocating. But tonight, they claimed me. They claimed my success. And that, she said softly, is the part that ends now. The crowd erupted, not loudly, but in tight, furious whispers aimed only at the Reeds. Judgment was already spreading like wildfire. Mrs. Reed stepped forward, shaking, her voice cracking. Emma, stop this. You're humiliating us. Emma turned toward her slowly, her expression calm, almost pitying. Humiliation requires truth, she said. And everything I've said is true. Gasps rippled again. Claire looked overwhelmed, her mascara smudging as she blinked rapidly. Emma didn't soften. You should know, she added, addressing the room rather than her mother, that my parents didn't lose track of me. They didn't wonder where I went. They changed their numbers. They shut the door and told me not to return. She looked directly at Mrs. Reed. And you obeyed your own words perfectly. Mrs. Reed swayed, gripping the edge of the table for balance. Guests exchanged looks, shock, disappointment, disgust. Emma stepped slightly to the side, allowing everyone a full, unobstructed view of the Reed family's unraveling. So when you clap for Claire tonight, Emma said gently, do it sincerely. She earned her success. But when you hear them talk about me, know that none of it is real. Not the support. Not the pride. Not the family bond. A man in the back muttered, unbelievable. A woman near the front whispered, I had no idea. And just like that, the Reeds' carefully constructed reputation collapsed in real time. Claire's voice finally broke through the chaos around them. Emma, I didn't know. Emma turned her gaze to her sister, measured, emotionless. You didn't want to know. Claire flinched. You lived the version of the story that made life easy for you, Emma continued. If you had asked questions, you might have learned the truth. Claire's lips trembled. She had expected anger, maybe tears, but not this cold precision. Emma returned her attention to the audience, her voice echoing through the hall. The Reed family thrives on performance. Tonight was their masterpiece. But perfection doesn't survive the truth. She set the microphone on the podium, calmly, deliberately. I'm not here to be saved. I'm not here to return. I came to make sure my absence isn't twisted into a lie anymore. Guests watched, spellbound. No yelling. No chaos. Just razor-sharp truth. Emma turned toward her parents. You taught me something important, she said quietly. That love conditioned on success isn't love at all. Her mother sobbed softly. Her father stood rigid, jaw clenched, unable to speak. Emma added, now you get to live with the story you created, the one where you have one daughter. The sentence landed like a blade. Claire gasped. Someone in the back whispered, my God. Emma stepped down from the stage with a grace that contrasted violently with the destruction left behind her. She didn't rush. She didn't look shaken. Every guest parted for her like water, their eyes wide, their phones recording, their minds replaying every word she'd said. Behind her, the Reed family stood in shambles. Mrs. Reed trembling. Mr. Reed speechless. Claire crying silently. Their perfect night drowned under the weight of a truth they had so carefully buried. Emma paused at the edge of the ballroom and turned just enough to address the room one last time. "Thank you for listening," she said softly. "Truth sets the right people free and traps the wrong people where they belong." And then she walked away. Out the doors. Into the night air. Her heels clicked against the pavement with the confidence of a woman who hadn't just taken back her narrative, she had detonated the false one. Behind her, the music had stopped. Voices rose in frantic whispers. The Reed legacy fractured in a single evening. And Emma didn't look back once. Outside, the night air wrapped around Emma like a calming embrace. She paused beneath the glow of the venue's lights, letting the adrenaline settle into something steadier, clarity. She didn't tremble. She didn't second-guess. Her words inside the ballroom replayed with crystal precision, each one a blade slicing through years of silence and erasure. She inhaled deeply, grounding herself. The city lights flickered across the river, and for a moment, she allowed herself to simply exist. Free. Empowered. Whole. The doors behind her opened as small groups of guests exited, murmuring in disbelief. Emma heard snippets. "I can't believe they hid that. She was so composed. That poor girl. The parents, unforgivable." But none of it touched her. Their opinions weren't her goal. They were collateral. Her revenge wasn't about winning sympathy. It was about reclaiming the truth and dismantling the facade her parents worshipped. And inside the venue, she knew the collapse was still unfolding. The Reed family would be scrambling, trying to salvage relationships, explain themselves, deny what everyone had just witnessed. But nothing they said could erase the calm, surgical precision of Emma's words. She had not screamed, nor cried. She had told the truth. And truth, spoken with composure, had more destructive power than any dramatic meltdown ever could. Emma walked toward the riverfront promenade that stretched behind the venue, each step feeling lighter than the last. She stopped by the water's edge, watching reflections ripple under the night sky. Her phone buzzed, first once, then repeatedly. Messages poured in from unknown numbers, colleagues, former neighbors, even distant acquaintances who had been at the event. Most offered support, some apologized for not knowing, others expressed admiration. Emma didn't open any of them. She didn't need outside validation. Nearby, the venue doors burst open again, and Claire stumbled out, still in her shimmering dress, eyes red and swollen. "Emma," she called, her voice a mix of desperation and confusion. Emma turned slowly. Claire approached, heels wobbling on the pavement. "Why did you do that?" she whispered. "You ruined everything." Emma's gaze was steady. "I corrected everything." Claire shook her head, tears falling freely. "I didn't know. Mom and Dad, they said things. I thought you left because you wanted to." Emma's silence said more than any explanation. Claire collapsed onto a nearby bench, burying her face in her hands. "I wish I'd asked," she whispered. "I wish I'd paid attention." Emma's expression softened, not with forgiveness, but understanding. "You lived inside the lie," she said quietly. "Now you know the truth. What you do with it is on you." Emma stepped closer to the railing, the wind brushing softly against her hair. "I'm not your enemy, Claire," she said. "But I'm not your shadow anymore." Claire looked up, eyes wide and hollow. "Can we fix this?" she asked weakly. Emma thought for a long moment, her gaze sweeping the skyline. "Maybe someday," she said. "But tonight wasn't about fixing. It was about freeing myself." Claire's shoulders slumped as Emma continued, her voice low but certain. "I didn't destroy your family. I revealed it." A silence settled between them, heavy, honest. Emma turned away, beginning to walk down the promenade. Behind her, Claire didn't call out again. She simply watched, finally understanding that the sister she once overlooked had become someone far stronger than she ever imagined. Emma's heels clicked softly against the pavement as she moved farther from the venue, the lights behind her fading. She wasn't running. She wasn't escaping. She was rising, stepping into a life she built entirely on her own, untouched by the Reed family's expectations or approval. For the first time in years, she felt weightless. She felt unbound. And she felt victorious. Her revenge was complete, not because she destroyed them, but because she reclaimed herself so completely that they could never touch her again. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.